Welcome in, everybody, to Fantasy Pros MLB. It's time to talk trade. It's me, Joey P. Joe Pisapia. With me, of course, is the Welsh. And let's start with a big name in Atlanta who had some big draft capital this season, but has not given you big productivity. It's Ozzie Albies, who I know last year was disappointing, and I was a big, hey, let's go out there and be aggressive, because this is a dude who hasn't been good. He's been great in his career. We're talking about a player, Welsh, that has had 30 homer seasons with 100 RBI, 100 runs scored. We're talking like big time fantasy productivity, second round worthy kind of player. But it has just not been there for Ozzie Albies again, and it is really starting to get rough out there in the streets. I know you were talking about trading him not that long ago, but I'm going to flip the script on you. I want to trade for him because I think the cost right now, when he's bottomed out at 207 with a 587 OPS, there's nowhere to go but up. He's got 5 homers and 5 steals on the year, but basically the strikeouts are too much, which is the same profile you saw last year. I know there's a lot of stuff that you don't love to see necessarily in the baseball savant profile too. You're seeing a lot of low numbers, a lot of blue, a lot of ice cold, but at the same point, Welsh, I think there's got to be a time where a player this good, who's been this good for so long, has to get better. What do you think?
Yeah, this is a tricky one because, like you said, it was the last 2 weeks I'd been in the sell territory of Ozzie Albies, things I don't like. He was still performing at a level that I think the cost made sense. It doesn't make sense even to sell him right now because he's hitting 200. Like, you can still get something out there for him, but like you're pointing out, we're towing the line of what you're going to acquire. Is that worth the potential that things can bounce back? Because things are bad right now. His bat's getting a bit slower. It's getting a bit longer, which are things we don't want. He's barreling less. He's hitting the ball the second least hard. What's the proper term for that? How do I say that?
Let's just say he's not hitting
as hard.
He's not hitting the ball as hard. The exit velo is not there. The average exit velocity is at 15 on Baseball Savant page. I mean, it's just
87 average exit velocity, which is one of the lowest he's had.
It's in the 15th percentile. That's brutal.
Yeah,
for a guy with 30 home run power.
It is brutal, but there are a couple things that are really intriguing to me. He's still pulling the ball in the air a ton. Lefties. He's hitting under 200 against lefties right now. He's hit over 300 against lefties each of the last 2 seasons. So that's an anomaly that stands out. While he is abnormally struggling against fastballs, and he's got a good zone contact rate. He's actually got a higher zone contact rate than he did last year at 86. But, it's weird. He's just not swinging in the zone quite as much. It's 75% versus 82% last year. So there's a lot of things that are working against him. He's got some bad vision that's going on right now. But I think he can kind of bounce back, even though the profile isn't telling us a whole bunch. Now, again, I'm towing the line of I was selling him when it wasn't super bad and he was hitting 260 and you could still get 90 to 95 cents on the dollar. We're probably talking about a player that is being sold at 75 to 80 cents on the dollar. And I think he can bounce back and at least be a 240 hitter. We know statistically what's around him. Ronald Acuna could be coming back soon and helping that offense. I think the juice is worth the squeeze and the risk here if someone is selling him really, really low. But there's a window. There's a window for me. He bounces way back up high and this profile changes. I'm trying to get out from him. But right now, it might be a better move to buy.
Yeah, I think this is called price enforcing, where I just think you're at a spot where it's all-time low and the body of work is good enough that I'm willing to buy in. Same thing goes for Bryan Reynolds of the Pittsburgh Pirates, another player that typically every year you're looking up. He's hitting 24 home runs. He's stealing double-digit bases. He's hitting somewhere around 260, 270. This year has not been good. He is down to a 204, 266, 323 slash, a 589 OPS. I mean, just nowhere near. Now, if you look at his Savant page, you've seen some red here. You're seeing some things here where, the expected batting average should be a lot higher. It should be in the 260 range almost, as opposed to 204. So to me, this is an easier buy in terms of feeling good about it. But for a guy who's been the model of consistency, this year, Bryan Reynolds has been anything but.
Yeah, it's literally what he's built around. He's not flashy, but you're like, oh, do I want a 280 hitter that hits 25 homers, steals 10 bases? Yes, that's what I want. Or 270 hitter. And you're not really remotely close to that. But there are a bunch of positives. His barrel percentage, so he is barreling up the ball better than he's ever done before. Hard hit rate is exactly what it was last year. His expected batting average is 258. So that's great. I mean, he's hit 275 and 263 the past 2 seasons, but that's a huge increase. He's also has a BABIP about 60 points lower than his career average. So some things are not working quite in his favor. I think there's some things you can just clearly see. Striking out a little bit more, and he's not getting the ball in the air. He's got a 4-degree launch angle right now, and he is usually sitting between 9 and 12 degrees. So I think, a few changes here and there. His zone contact percentage is the same. We're in a bad kind of run of it, but a lot of the profile is still there to see the traditional Bryan Reynolds that we know, that we can get back to a 250 to 270. We can get those 20 homers, and the worst is maybe behind him. So I actually think he's like a really good buy right now.
And these are two really big names too. Ozzie Albies, Bryan Reynolds, and we're going to throw another one out there too to buy, and that's Willy Adames of the San Francisco Giants. Look, I think going into the year, Welsh, we all have the same idea, which is not the best ballpark factor. You're going from Milwaukee, a place where it's very power friendly, to San Francisco, which is not great, right? That's not exactly where you want to be. And I think as a right-handed power hitter, we all thought it would hurt him a little bit in the power department, but he's hitting 218 right now with a 296 OBP. He is ice cold. I think this is the classic new environment, pressing with the big contract this offseason kind of thing. And I do think by the second half, he'll rebound. Now, I don't expect him to rebound to the levels he was at in his contract year. I just don't. And we've seen him put up these kind of numbers before. In fact, if you dial back to his 2023 campaign, he had 24 homers, but he did hit just 217, and his on-base percentage was at 310. So I don't expect him to be a huge winner in those departments, but I do think some of the power will come back. Eventually, he will settle in there, and the Giants have some players around him. Helio Ramos has been really good. I think that it's more than anything, I think, a mental game with Willy Adames right now, and eventually he'll settle in as the season goes on. And I do think in the second half he would be one of my buys. And we're getting not quite second half yet, but we're getting into that window where you're looking at the players who are just not performing up to their abilities. And Willy Adames to me is a giant one of those, which the flag is just way up the pole.
Yeah, not to retread, but there's some similarities in the Bryan Reynolds stuff where I'll just say the underlying profile stuff of what you're looking for. It's pretty similar across the board in hard hit, barrel. He's a big get the ball in the air type of guy, but ironically, he's pulling the ball in the air less. So he is, hitting a lot more stuff down the middle and his inability to pull it, which is going to give him a few more homers. But the positives are that he's got a higher zone contact percentage than he's had in some time. I think it's 85, getting back down to 85%. That's the highest of his career. So he's making a ton of contact in the zone, but he is struggling on that batting average. Secondary pitches are kind of weird right now. I think he just has to adjust, but we always knew the ballpark was going to take away some of those homers. But fun fact, when you look at his splits, he's actually struggling on the road right now. He's not struggling at home. He's hitting 257 at home, and he's got 2 homers. On the road, he's hitting 189. So that's like a reverse split where we're like, oh, well, that can bounce back because it's not the home ballpark that's suppressing him.
That's a great
and I think
stat.
that's a big positive.
That's a great stat there. One more guy we want to buy, it's Jake Berger. Now, you might be able to buy him for free off the waiver wire because I know he was dropped in a lot of shallow leagues, but most deeper leagues, people have held on to him. And if they have, they might have other injuries where Berger might become available on their roster. He was hitting a $194 when he got sent down with a 564 OPS. He got sent down to AAA for a week, and things looked much better. 6 games, 391 batting average, 1157 OPS. He had 2 homers over that week and 6 ribbies. So whatever technically was off with Jake Berger seems to be on, and I want to be involved here because Berger is back up, and I think this is the time to see if you could buy in a package deal, maybe, as a throw-in. You might even be able to get him because he's been so bad. And a lot of people, mostly, I'm talking about those deeper leagues too, where you're looking for a little corner help, right? You don't have Tristan Casas, right? You lost him. Jake Berger could be an option for you to hold that down the rest of the season if he can get back on track. And it certainly looks from the AAA productivity that he has been.
I'm obligated to say yes because he's been a buy since the beginning of the season.
Right.
He had one of the lowest BABIPs in all of baseball. It was like a $120 at that time. Now, obviously, things have kind of bounced back. It's still about 50 points lower than his career. So I think there's still plenty of bounce back potential. One of the reasons outside of just the BABIP was, again, that profile. That's a big thing I'm going to look at. It's like if you have an abnormal struggle of a player, is the majority of what they're doing still there? And it is. Barreling the ball, he's hitting the ball really hard. He just hasn't been walking, and he's striking out some. But he came back in his first game after being called back up. He got a hit in it. I think it's a good start. I'm completely with you here that I think Berger's a really good speculative buy right now, that he's gotten all that garbage out of him, and he's going to bounce back.
All right, let's get some more garbage off of our teams. Before we do that, Of course, don't forget about the Trade Analyzer. Make smarter fantasy baseball trades with the Trade Analyzer. Instantly evaluate it. Any trade that could benefit your team and maybe your opponents as well, because we like when everybody wins in trades, but we like when you win a little bit more. See how potential trades affect each team's stats and starting lineups. Make informed trade decisions today with the Trade Analyzer on the Fantasy Baseball My Playbook app or at fantasypros.com/MLB My Playbook. So, Welsh, a player that we were talking about, well, you might as well add because he's hot. Well, if you've added him and you've been enjoying the ride, maybe it's time to sell him off because Javier Baez, it's been fun, but a 313 hitter, I'm just not sure if we're there. The OPS is above 800 still. If you're looking at the expected batting average for him, it's somewhere around 247. The expected slugging is actually 380. There's a lot of red flags here in the numbers for Javier Baez that maybe this renaissance is going to be short-lived. So baseball's a game of streaks. And if you picked up Javier Baez and you're loving what he's given you the last couple of weeks, you have to consider selling him at his peak. And Welsh, I just feel like this is his peak. And this is a difficult thing. We talk about it all the time. On this show, we've talked about it time and time again. Sometimes you have to recognize when the value is at its highest. Even if it's been good for your roster, it might be better long-term to cash in.
It's Javi Baez. Like this is a tough one. It's only tough because it's like, can you sell him? Do you have the ability? Is anybody buying? If they are, I think you should. I will say this. There are some interesting things that he's changed in his stance. He's gotten closer to the plate and he's closed off his stance. It's like one of the most closed off he's ever done while getting closer to the plate. And I'm always intrigued by players that have like a noticeable difference like that. And then you have actionable results, and you have actionable results in that he has been hitting the ball really well. But he currently is hitting over 300 against the three major baseball savant pitch types of off speed, breaking, and fastball. But expected batting average is quite a bit lower. Batting average on fastballs, 314, expected 298. That's not anything too crazy. But breaking pitches, he's hitting 313 and expected 202. And off speed, 313, expected 216. Javi Baez is going to come back down to earth. Maybe he'll shockingly be a little bit serviceable for the rest of the year with some of these changes. But if someone is seeing the 300 hitter version of him, he's had 5 multi-hit games in his last 8. I would probably be comfortable, as in absolutely 100% comfortable moving off of him. So yeah, I agree. This is not going to continue the rest of the season. Egg on our face if it does.
Yeah, I'll take that L, but I'll take the risk. Again, it's more about just selling at the peak, and this is the peak right now. 2 more guys we want to kind of look into at least the trade market of. The first one is Seth Lugo, starting pitcher from the Kansas City Royals. The K per 9 is down year over year from 7.8 to 6.6 K per 9. That's not where we want to be. The walks are up a little bit. The home run rate is up a little bit. But the other thing, too, is that 3 ERA doesn't look like it's going to hold much longer because if you look at the expected ERA, it's 4.76. The FIP is at 4.54. So it looks like Lugo, a lot of underlying metrics could be a little scary. And you want to talk about dip and strikeout rate. You got to talk about Tanner Bibee this year. It went from 9.6 K per 9 to 6.2. The walk rate has gone from 2.28 to 3.2. And we have a big enough sample size with these guys. Now we're 8, even 9 starts into the year for some of these guys. You look at the ERA for Bibee, too, is at 3.8. The FIP is at 5.53. So to me, Bibee and Lugo are 2 guys that you might want to consider maybe what you might be able to get for them right now before some of these underlying metrics come home to roost.
Yeah, both names are kind of weird and intriguing because what does the value look like? Lugo, luckily, though, still has a pretty low ERA, picking up some wins for the Royals. There's something there, but I agree with you. The strikeout rate's kind of just dissipating. He's walking a little bit more. The Bibee one, I've never been a big Tanner Bibee guy. That one really stands out to me. Interestingly enough, when you're looking at he's giving up a ton more barrels, people are hitting him harder. His walk to strikeout ratio is like an 8% if you go K- walk percentage, which is ridiculous. But with Bibee, one of the things he's done in changing his pitch mix is he was throwing his changeup last year 18% of the time. It was essentially 4-seam cutter changeup. This year, he's throwing his sinker and sweeper more than his changeup, and it is equated to whiff percentage drops across the board. Across the board. The only one that's better is his changeup, which he's throwing less. So I'm not into Bibee either. I think his expected ERA is over 4 right now. The walks are concerning. Maybe try to get a hot start to move him off. Probably both of these guys. Don't fall into the trap. Let them get a nice start in. See if you can sell off to someone that wants to buy because there's there really might be bad days in the future for both of these players.
All right, we want to hear from you. Drop your comments below, like the video, and you might win yourself a Jose Ramirez autographed jersey from Pristine Auction. Somebody's going to win it this month. Why not you? Again, how do you win? Drop your comments below, subscribe to Fantasy Pros MLB, and ring the bell till it goes ding for notifications. That'll do it for us, but the story of the game goes on. For the Welsh, I'm Joey P. We'll see you next time, kids. Happy trading.